From the trails to the track, D.I.D chains are manufactured with the highest quality materials and designed to give you an optimal riding experience and are the top chain choice worldwide. When performance, quality, and consistency matter, go with D.I.D. What drives you? The LS2 Thunder Carbon. FIM approved. World Championship technology. Lightweight. Aerodynamic. Outrageous margins. Visit ls2usa.com.
Well, hey everybody, how's it going? Welcome back to another great episode of On the Throttle with Jacqui Van Ham and my buddy Josh, bringing you all of the best news out here in motorcycle land. Josh, how was your week? What's been going on with you? I know I just got back last week from Daytona Bike Week. Had a lovely time down there. What's been going on in your neck of the woods?
That explains why you may look a little more tan than I am. For me, I've got, we're going to talk, for me, the crazy Canadians get electrified, and then Utah gets noisy.
Speaking of getting electrified, this is almost the official, unofficial, it's electric, boogie, oogie, oogie show because all of my topics today have everything to do with e-bikes. That's right, I threw it way back for you, Josh. I wanted to go ahead and reference from your era, from your generation. I have got a ton of e-bike news going on. This is the magical season when new bikes are slowly getting leaked out to the internet, and it is just hot and heavy with
Yes.
e-bike news. First things first, in my neck of the woods, kind of tapping into last week's show, talking quite a bit about the latest version of Fuell motorcycles. At the exact same time, Fuell Motorcycles, which is Eric Buell's current motorcycle project, also released a press release announcing that they are going to be distributing their e-bikes through Tucker Powersports, which is really, really good news for them.
Yeah.
Tucker's Powersports, of course, huge distributor. They have their hands in lots and lots and lots of dealerships all around America. So this is really convenient for him to be able to have these bikes go to market, get into people's hands without having to worry about that whole pesky dealership network situation. He's just going to go through a distributor instead. That being said, though, he is only going to be, they're only going to be distributing the FLLUID, not the Flow. That's right. There's a couple different names going on in here. If Ashley can go ahead and throw that first slide up for me. The bike that they are going to be distributing is this great looking e-bike. This, I think, is dead sexy. I saw this last year when this was still kind of in the prototype type phases. This is the actual real deal bike. This is going to be for sale. This is again going to be distributed at your local dealerships by the folks over at Tucker Powersports. This MSRP is around $5,500. I think this is just stunning. Just a really, really awesome, very slick, very modern take on e-bikes. They're going to be distributing this, not, next slide. There we go. Not this. This was really interesting to me when I saw this on the internets last year, and this is the Flow. This is an e-bike as well. It obviously is way closer and way more into that e-motorcycling type space. This, however, is not going to be distributed by Tucker. So I don't know exactly how this is going to come to the market. I'm not totally sure. They have not announced that. They're just focusing on the e-bike part of the equation for right now. But that is super, super good news from the folks over at instead of Buell, it is Fuell. I know it gets really confusing in here, but Buell is making e-bikes named Fuell, which are still e-bikes that have nothing to do with petroleum fuel. But that's what's going on with Eric Buell currently. As always, you can always go back and watch our previous shows also because we talked all about what Buell, the brand, is doing right now. But anyway, just a really good-looking e-bike. What do you think about this news, Josh?
I need a map to figure out who's doing what, where, when, why, and how. But as
it's like
far
a Venn diagram.
Oh, it's not even. It's just I mean, it looks like a map where someone threw up a bowl of spaghetti. This bike, I agree with you because this to me is the ultimate. I mean, instead of taking your motorcycle, instead of taking your car, this is the get to work. It's got a rack in the back. Throw your briefcase on there. It's got fenders to keep road grime off of you. It's got a reasonably sporty but somewhat relaxed handlebar position. It's got a suspended seat post, which means that you're not sapping up pedaling energy putting in the rear suspension, but you're still going to be able to stay comfortable and not have a numb butt when you get to work. The front forks obviously take some of the load off your wrists. To me, I mean, once again, this is the great way to get back and forth to work, burn a few calories, but you don't necessarily have to if you really want to just twist the throttle and go. I'm excited to see this. The distributorship with it too, same thing. I mean, it's a great way for them to get it out there, to get it in the hands of people without necessarily having to have the capital intense costs of building dealerships, building that network, etc. They've got it.
Yeah, it's a huge, huge, huge win for Mr. Eric Buell. So I'm really excited about that. I think that this bike is terrifically just elegant.
Yeah.
Also, you nailed it. Like this is a great commuter scoot. You can put your briefcase on it. Very tidy, very clean, very sophisticated looking e-bike option. Now, at the other end of the spectrum, that was also released just this past week, and that's the next slide coming up, Miss Ashley, is another e-bike that was released this past week, and this is going to be a bit of a mashup, a bit of a partnership between the folks over at Super 73 who are just on a huge winning streak. They are just selling through these little bikes like crazy. Spoiler alert, I also have one. They are a load of fun. And this is a partnership with Indian Motorcycle. Josh also sent me a texted me a picture of this and said, if you don't talk about this on the show, like I don't even know you anymore. Because it's a couple of my favorite
Correct.
things. It's going to be Indian Motorcycle, which I'm a fan of Indian. And then it's
Correct.
also going to be e-bikes and Super 73. It's all things Jacqui Van Ham all in one package. It's got Hooligan
Yes.
even written on the side. I do have to take them to task, however, because they are claiming that this is Indian's new e-bike, which it clearly is not. This is a Super 73
Right.
that has been co-branded. This is not a new bike from Indian Motorcycle. But the reason why I also wanted to show this, and it is dope, I'm not taking anything away from it. It's a very cool, neat thing. Style-wise, it's slightly different than the traditional Super 73s. They've relocated the battery pack to underneath and
Right.
in the middle of the frame. Usually it sits up on top, and they've made this whole big bench along the top section of it. This also has a little mini itty bitty fly screen on it, and they're calling it the eFTR, which is referencing their flat track racing bikes. I'm gonna go ahead and say, nah. I'm not buying what you're selling on that one. It still is super cool, but calling this Indian's new eFTR, I think, is kind of a womp womp. I don't think it's really that. But the thing that really makes me, I get why they're doing it. Super 73 is having a moment. They're very, very busy.
Yep.
They're in very, very cool, neat spaces. They're doing cool little regional racing. Their sales have been through the market. It's a cool partnership. I get it. But Polaris purchased e-bike intellectual property years and years and years ago, and I'm waiting for that to come to the table. A proper e-bike using that intellectual property that they purchased 5, 6, 7, 8 years ago and developed their own e-bike. I'm waiting for that to actually happen. It's a cool, neat thing. Is it a new Indian e-bike? I'm going to go ahead and say no on this one. What do you think about that, Josh?
So that one, it is kind of interesting that they did do that partnership, because obviously with Polaris and Zero having that partnership, and as Polaris develops their bigger stuff, that it's going to be interesting to see which direction this heads. I see it like you said. It's a cool partnership. Super 73's got their own niche with, I mean, it's a unique looking bike. Indians got their stuff. Yeah, okay, maybe it may not be the flat track racer. But in the same sense, I think it's a cool little bike. It's going to be fun. They are going to sell a ton of them for people to get around with. And like I said, I mean, in the text that I sent you, I mean, this thing kept popping up like 15 times in my news feed, in my Facebook feed, everywhere. I'm like, no. This
Yeah.
is Jacqui. This is all you need. You're in the wrong feed. You need to be over in Jacqui's feed.
Yeah, no. It's a cool, neat thing. But I am, again, as I just mentioned, I am waiting for them to continue development and release their own proprietary in-house e-bike, because
Yeah.
I know that they have the guts and the stuff to do it. So I'm just waiting for it to happen. Now, what's going on for your first topic for today, Josh?
So those crazy Canadians, BRP is making a huge commitment for electric. And that is not only, when I say BRP, that is not only like Can-Am and things of that nature. Sea-Doo and Ski-Doo are both getting huge electric investments for this. So one of the big areas that they've been talked about where there has been stuff coming out is personal watercraft that you see here. There's been noted a few prototypes that have been ridden that BRP has created that are electric, which I'm actually really excited to see. The way a jet drive works, it makes it pretty conducive to an electric motor. Jet drives love resistance, and the fact that you've got full torque at 0 RPM means that you've opened up to a whole world of different impeller options and things of that nature. So I'm really excited to see that. So what is BRP saying though? They are putting $300 million towards this by 2026, which according to my watch is less than 4 years away. So that is a huge amount of dollars going in that direction. So and if you remember, they've already got some great technology when in 2019 they purchased Alta. So not the makeup brand. We're talking about the dirt bike company here. So and if you want to find out, it's with the A, not with the U. Not that I know much about makeup, obviously. But if you look up Ryan Fortnine, F9 channel, did an amazing story and amazing research on kind of what happened to Alta. Go check that out. Then come back here, let us know what you think. But the fact that BRP owns that technology and that they are so far ahead of everyone in this, I think is a big win. What are your thoughts, Jacqui? Are we going to catch you on the water with something electric?
First of all, absolutely. Count me in. If somebody wants to throw me the
Yeah,
keys to one of these things, I will ride it in a hot second. But secondly, to
yeah,
speak to your point about this whole story of Alta, I don't want to go too far down the rabbit hole, but you're totally right. There was a West Coast based company called Alta that was getting ready to get into a partnership because they needed funding with Harley Davidson. Well, Harley Davidson ended up getting into their bed, finding out their intellectual property, and then ended up breaking the contract and cutting them loose. So they ended up having to declare bankruptcy. They ended up foundering and going under. At that point, that is when BRP stepped in, made the purchase, and purchased all of their intellectual property as well as all of their stock and inventory. They bought everything up, and then a year or so later is when they started bringing a handful of prototypes, e-bike prototypes, and showing them at a couple of
yep.
different car shows and bike shows, like global, national level, international level shows. But along the same idea, like I just mentioned with Indian purchased another West Coast company that you might have forgotten called Bramo. Bramo was another
Yep.
American based e bike company in the Wayback Machine. They purchased them lock, stock, and barrel and then used their intellectual property and their materials off of the shelf to make the Victory M Pulse with an E, whereas the Bramo was the Impulse with an I. So now we're fast forward 12 years or 10 years, and we have these two companies, the DNA of which are founded in
Yes.
American based e-bike companies that now are the bedrock of some potential new vehicles being put out by BRP. And then, as I mentioned earlier in the show, what I'm hoping Indian steps up and does as well. So anyway, that was my geeky tangent of some of the quick history of the Alta saga, and the Bramo saga. And are we ever going to see any of this stuff coming to light? It looks like BRP is already stepping on up
Yeah.
and saying that yes, it is going to happen, which I'm really excited about with that, what, $300 million investment.
Big money.
Absolutely bananas. So I can't wait to see what happens with that. I think that they're great looking. Yeah, it's a yes for me, Josh. But to be fair, you can literally throw me the keys to anything and I'm gonna say yes to it. I don't say no. I like to have a
Likewise.
good time. I like to have a good time, and I will ride or drive anything you want to toss me the keys to. Now, while we are still talking about about electrics and e-bikes, as I mentioned at the beginning of the show, I gave you the heads up. This is the electric special going on today because we're doing the electric slide all program long here, because the next story for me is talking about the folks. That's right, the folks at Yamaha. So Yamaha has been dabbling in the e-bike bicycle space for a while now, and folks have been waiting with a little bit of anticipation for them to launch their intent going into the e-bike, e-scooter, e-motorcycling type category. Even though they've been an e-bike for a hot minute, we've been waiting to see what's going on with their bigger platforms and where they are headed. Well, they just released details about that this past week. The first slide on your screen is a bike that they are going to be launching in an as yet undisclosed city in Europe. Think Milan, think perhaps Barcelona, where they want to do a small fleet of these as available as rentals. Because then what they want to do is they want to glean information and basically use this as proof of concept for the first 2 years, seeing if there is enough interest, seeing what the feedback is, seeing if people like riding them. This, however, is a fixed battery platform. So this is what it is. Let me go ahead and double check the specs on that and make sure that I'm correct. But I believe that this is going to be fixed battery. And again, these are just going to be living at certain, like one or two, I think it's only going to be one though, cities in Europe, and used as a fleet for 2 years. The next slide, however, a little bit more interesting, is going to be another little scooter from them. And this is where it gets interesting. This is going to be the EO1. It's not expected to be for sale right away. It's got a whopping 3 horsepower at 38 foot-pound of torque. This little guy is also, as we mentioned on last week's show, this has swappable battery, Josh. This has swappable battery. So this is really interesting to me. This is going to be, oh, sorry, this is not the EO1. This is the Neo. And this is going to have swappable battery, which I think is really interesting. It also has the same, I shouldn't say same, very similar specs and sizing for that battery as the Go-Go Row, which if you're a regular watcher of the program know that this is the whole swappable battery concept that's going to be going on over in Asia, where they have freestanding stalls of these batteries all over the place in every major city, every mid-sized city. You can just pull up just like you would to a 7-Eleven, and there's going to be a little kiosk there. You put your credit card in, and like a rental type program, you pull a new battery out and you put it into your swappable battery enabled scooter. I think that that is super, super cool. And then the next slide is another cool little e-bike. Again, like I mentioned, Yamaha has been in the e-bike bicycle type space actually for a while now. This is not totally unheard of for them, and this is a little bit, while super modern and funky, this is a little bit closer to what they've been doing for the past handful of years. This is real. This is going to be produced. It's going to be built in Europe under a partnership with the company Fantic, promising to have it in showrooms come the start of next year. And this is going to be the aluminum framed BO1. And I think that that is excellent. That is dead sexy and super cool. I love the chubby tires on it. I love that it's like a step through. I think that this is really, really neat and really interesting news from the folks at Yamaha. Josh, what do you think about these Yamaha bikes?
So it's interesting that you bring that up because once again, like I said last week, we talk about that swappable technology, especially on stuff this size. I think that's a key because range is not going to be a big thing for so many of these. I mean, it's not going to go out for 30, 40 miles. You're going to need to have these swappable things. You ride into town, you swap it out, you're done, you're good to go. We're both big proponents of that and agree with that. On this last one here with the chunky tires, and I know you mentioned Yamaha's been in the e-bicycle game for a while. It's probably 3 years ago, right as Yamaha started to get into that bicycles, that I got a ride on a couple of the Yamaha bicycles. And as a former bicycle racer, I used to be a sprinter. It was amazing because up till about 25 miles an hour, it was like that lead out that you got right before a sprint, that you're Superman, and then it starts to let up for you. It makes cycling such a joy. And the fact that they've got this type of setup where obviously this is going to be much more of an assist than you pedaling. You're still going to burn some calories. You're going to show up to work. You're going to be refreshed. You're not going to be drenched in sweat. You're going to save the environment. You're going to do all sorts of great stuff with this. You're going to roll over bumps and probably not feel them with those tires. All great stuff.
I know, I love it. And I love, look at that little trellis frame towards the front of this very last slide from the folks at Yamaha. I think it's just got
Yeah,
tons of style. I think it's fabulous.
agreed.
I cannot wait to see these live and in person myself. And the last little bit I want to leave you with while we're talking about this whole idea, particularly of this swappable battery segment, what this does for a large chunk of the world, like I said, this is mostly very Asia specific
Yes.
initiative, is it removes the need for people to have to change over their electrics at their home and make them be compatible with some of the battery tech that's going on, because some of these battery technology going on in these vehicles right now, you have to have like adapters and you have to have like two-phase or three-phase power hooked up at your house, and it costs more money, yada yada yada. There's a bit of a bar to entry with this whole idea of how you're going to actually charge this vehicle. The swappable battery scenario takes all of that out, because all you have to do is
Right.
go to the corner store, run your card, and like I said, it's on a subscription based program. Take your battery out, plunk it in, and keep on trucking. And I think that really opens the door to a lot of communities globally, and I think that that's very, very exciting. So that's what I got to say
Agreed.
about the folks at Yamaha and that bit of news. What's going on for your last story today, Josh?
So I mentioned Utah gets noisy. So there is currently a bill going through that there was an amendment added to it by a senator, state senator, that could strip city and county and other townships the ability to enforce noise ordinances. Now, I know we've got some loud pipes save lives fans. In the same sense, and I know I'm going to frustrate and aggravate those people,
I
and that's
I
fine, and
did
I'm
just
okay
get
with
back
it.
from I did just get back from Daytona, Josh. I did just get back
Correct.
from there.
Correct. So, and not that either one of us have loud pipes just speaking. So, nonetheless, is that they're saying that it would limit their ability to enforce any noise ordinance on street operated / licensed UTVs or ATVs. This is one of these things where I want to keep an eye on this, because this can set a precedence for a lot of different things that it's a giant legal can of worms for sure. And this is one of those things too where we all love, I mean, especially off-road, we all love the ability to go out, get off-road, and go do those things. I worry that if we get too loud about that, then some people may get kind of upset. You see all sorts of stories of HOAs banning trailers and fences and all this other stuff. I worry that if we get too loud with some of these, that we're going to be putting out our own fires here with that. Now, one of the big things that I see in this is it's in the law is it says unreasonable noise ordinances. What the heck does that mean? So these are these things that are going to need to be ironed out over the next few weeks. I think this is going to play out over a long time. I'm a very much a tread lightly guy. I am a leave no trace guy. I want to make sure that I can come back and enjoy these same spots, or someone else can enjoy these same spots. So that being said, what are your thoughts here on this one, Jacqui? Where do you see this one ending up, maybe?
Well, I think it's really terrifically interesting that they're saying like it's run what you brung, open pipes, make all of the
Yeah.
noises. I find that very, very strange and incredibly shocking, because that is
Yes.
absolutely not the case for 49 other states here in the US. So I
Correct.
don't really know exactly what's going on up there. But also, God bless, because I guess that means you could just run what you brung and do whatever you want out on the streets. Which, I mean, I'm kind of down for that. I think I'm gonna kind of give that a bravo. I love seeing all sorts of wacky vehicles out there. I'm one of those people that I think the road is for everybody. You know, I was gonna say within reason, but actually not even within reason. So long as you're not like running people down or over, and preferably that you have lights and brakes and all that good stuff on your vehicle, I'm down for whatever wants to go out on the road. So I'm here for it. I think it's really interesting, but I can't wait to hear how these cities are going to feel when these quads are
Yeah.
blazing through their towns in the middle of the night with open pipes making a bunch of noise. I'm really curious to see how long that's actually going to live for. I'm really curious.
Yeah, it's one of these things where I mean, and when we look at how, I mean, we all know that there's no secret that UTV people and dirt bike people don't always see eye to eye and don't do things the same. Same thing with ATV people are kind of stuck halfway in between. I mean, we can talk to and get along with all of them, but it's going to be interesting to see how this plays out. And to me, I kind of say it as of note thing. It's just going to be interesting to see how this plays out over the next few weeks and months.
Yeah, for sure. We're gonna have to put a bookmark in this one and keep an eye on it in the news
Agreed.
and see how this all shakes out. Because I gotta admit, when you told me that they are running unlimited, I was like, I'm sorry, what? Because normally
Right.
it's the exact opposite in the news, and you're
Correct.
hearing about less vehicles, less places, less spaces, less
Right.
noise, which is cool too. I mean, folks gotta do what they gotta do, right? So with
Right.
all of that, that was just a ton of very exciting news going on this week. Josh,
Agreed.
tons and tons of electric news, really, really exciting news going on out here in motorcycling.
I'm
As
not going to dance.
always.
I'm not.
Boogie, boogie, boogie.
No.
As always, Josh and I working hard to bring you all of the latest, newest news going on out here in motorcycle land. Thank you so much for clicking, liking, and sharing all of these videos. Have a great week, everybody, and we will see you next week.